Like, I
That's the
mean,
magic of it, right? Like
yeah,
you know,
I think it's a gimmick, is what it is. But I mean,
There's
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
aspects about it that I think are like a little like, guys, come on. Like you can
The
catch
slave
people
labor.
and enslave them, and I'm like, but I do think it speaks to this want for a more mature Pokemon. Like, how many years do
Yeah.
we have to like play characters that obviously aren't 10 years old, but like the game just goes, okay, yeah, they're these 10 years old kids, we're gonna throw them out into the world, and they gotta solve like geo world problems while saving the world and fighting gang wars, and it's just like that was cool when we were kids, but the generation that grew up with Pokemon grew up, and they want something a little more complex, a little more challenging, that also harkens back to that nostalgia.
But even the kids also can play this game. It's not so overwhelming that, you know, like my 5-year-old is like, understands the concepts and it's like, oh, I'm building all these things. And so like we've seen with Minecraft and a lot of, and like Roblox, there's a lot of like creativity that they can kind of just play in this space. So even if they're not like actively working on the objectives, like I
have
two
little brothers. I have two little brothers that are in that like 5 and 6 range. And they are so quick with technology. It's actually scary.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like kids with tech. They're growing up in it. We had to learn all of it as it like was evolving. These kids are already in the deep end and they're just picking it up. And I think that's also speaks to you can make more difficult games now. Like you don't have to worry about kids being like overwhelmed because they get it.
Right. Now, Kirk highlighted late to games question.
Yeah, speaking of never growing up. Yeah.
So Kirk, I know you and you and Mark, that you sat down and reviewed this. What are we talking about here? Why does this make the list of bad games?
Kind of. In the hyperbolic satirical sense that we're kind of approaching this topic, because I don't think you or I, other than Suicide Squad, and like I hope I've at least convinced you of more than a few redeeming qualities of Skull and Bones, which we can get into that. But other than Suicide Squad and maybe Nightingale, because like I don't know, I just kind of have to take your word for it. I don't know that either of us think that any of these games is like truly bad. You know, like we're kind of just being tongue in cheek here. But yeah, like in that theme of like that we're being kind of unserious in that way, like was Princess Peach bad or did it underperform? Kind of. I mean, we're talking like lower half of 70s or like peaking at around 75 for reviews. I think for a first party Nintendo IP game, I think that's a little bit disappointing. And I think in the respect that like Mark and I did the review based on the demo, like as a preview. We really liked what we experienced. Obviously, he's not here to give his thoughts, but I think the game didn't really develop or evolve beyond that. Like, it's kind of like if you played that, you kind of understood the game. And I think a lot of people were like, this was really fun. I bet if I played this for 8 more hours, I'm going to be like, oh, that was amazing. And it was kind of just like, oh, no, I already kind of like played the game, you know?
Yeah.
And so like the joke got old fast.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know that that's inherently bad. I definitely don't think that it's bad. I think it's just okay, and it's just the game is what the game is. And that's been another thing this year too, right? Is like it's also the year of unmet expectations. Like people expected to go into Suicide Squad and they expected it to be Destiny, or they expected it to be Borderlands, or they expected it to be the next Arkham game. It was none of those three things. Far from it. I said Assassin's Creed. With Skull and Bones, people expected it to be Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, but online, and it was very much not that. It was about building a better pirate ship that is a force to be reckoned with, and using that to take out other ships, and that's what the game is. Like, it's fighting ghost ships and sea monsters and stuff in your ship. It's not about pulling up to an island and diving off and going and finding buried treasure and assassinating people with a hidden blade or anything. It doesn't have any of that. But like people got it in their mind that's what they were looking for the experience to be. People got it in their mind that Rise of Ronin, you've got to compare it to Ghost of Tsushima, because it's two open world samurai games. They've got to be comparable to each other, or otherwise one of them just has absolutely no value whatsoever. And people are like, oh, I don't need to play this. That's another thing too, is like, times are tough, right? Like inflation hit hard after the pandemic. games are $70 now, and like there's good games out there, like a Dragon and Final Fantasy and Persona and
Helldivers.
Yeah, like I mean, Helldivers is a little less expensive, right? But like these games are out here, and like they want to be bought, right? And people want to buy them. Stellar Blade coming up, and it's like, you know, each one of those is $70. So it's kind of convenient to be like, oh, I don't need to go buy Rise of Ruin. It doesn't look as pretty as Ghost of Tsushima, or it doesn't seem like it's as fleshed out of a game as Ghost of Tsushima.
Right.
There's not enough value there for me to buy it. I'll just write it off. Or Skull and Bones isn't what I was looking for. I wanted to run around and be a pirate and be Edward Kenway, but like in an online world, and it's not that. I'm gonna have a ship. Ship combat's cool, but that, you know, it's not good enough for me to pay $70. I'm gonna write it off. And like I feel like it's like almost a product of convenience now, that it's like people are looking for reasons that they can say, oh, that game is bad. Oh, that game isn't worth the money. So then they don't have to worry about spending the money, because then you don't have the like, oh, I need it, you know, feeling. Like, well, if you can dispel that, you kind of rid yourself of a problem, right?
Yeah, because you're there's a lot of keeping up with the Jones that I think people are trying to like justify not doing. Yeah. And like, okay, Skull and Bones, use that. I don't know much about it. I know that it was like in development hell for a long time, and it came out, and the most comparable thing to it is Sea of Thieves. And now you can like Sea of Thieves, you can hate Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is free.
Not on PlayStation.
Oh, they're charging for it on PlayStation?
Oh yeah, baby, $40. Yeah,
smart. Like, wow. How much do you guys
and
feel
it's selling.
like...
It's selling